And it's midweek already. Hello there. You're watching the polls on the JoyNews channel. Coming up this afternoon, minority in Parliament accuses the Electoral Commission of plotting to rig the 2024 general elections as it urges the electoral management body to pull the brakes on the controversial CI, which makes the Ghana card the sole identity document for prospective voters.
We do not intend to disenfranchise persons who qualify to vote. More especially, it will prevent unqualified persons from influencing our elections and having a say as to who should govern our country.
We have the latest from the minority as its members are accusing the EC of planning to use the CI to, of course, disrupt the smooth running of the next general elections. Also this afternoon, the police and a lot of things are happening in security. We'll talk about it later, but the price of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, is also up by some 10% beginning today.
For voter registration cannot be accepted as it would deny me.
Apologies for that wrong insert, but we're also building up to Nigeria and also looking at the elections there, as there's an appeal from the President-elect Tinubu calling for peace and unity as he emerges as the winner of the just ended presidential elections there. We have the latest updates plus more analysis coming up here on the polls. The polls has always is brought to you by Global Communities Digny Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. We're on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. This is the polls. I am Blessed Sogah. We're back with the details shortly. Please stay. Let's start off from Parliament because the minority there is continuing its onslaught on the Electoral Commission as it proposed the constitutional instrument which makes the Ghana card the sole identity document to register as a voter. For hours yesterday, the Electoral Commission chairperson and the NIA executive secretary briefed MPs on the controversial subject matter. Here are highlights from that engagement for you.
Minority leader Haruna Idrisu had always insisted that EC chairperson Jean Mensah appears before the House over this controversial CI. Madam Jean Mensah says this CI will help make Ghanaian election even more credible as she mounted a spirited defense of the proposals.
The CI before Parliament seeks to promote the continuous registration of voters and advocates for an all-year-round registration of eligible voters at the district offices of the Electoral Commission. It is a clear departure from the previous system where the voters' registration was done for a limited period. We are mindful of Article 42, Article 42 of the Constitution, which enjoins us to register Ghanaians who are 18 years and above and who are of sound mind. We do not intend to disenfranchise persons who qualify to vote. More especially, it will prevent unqualified persons from influencing our elections and having a say as to who should govern our country. This is an issue that borders on the sovereignty of our nation. Simply put, only eligible Ghanaians must be entitled to vote. And we call on our honorable members to support our efforts to prevent foreigners and minors from getting onto our electoral roll, that the Ghana card will not be used to vote in the 2024 election. The Ghana card is only a requirement to register as a voter. Once you present your Ghana card and successfully register as a voter, you will be issued with a voter's identification card which bears the code of your region, your district, your electoral area, and the name of your polling station. The Ghana card does not have these features, and therefore it will not be used to vote in the 2024 general election.
The NIA, the institution dealing with the production of the Ghana cards, which is at the center of this controversy, are also of the opinion that the Ghana card will make the election even more credible. Professor Kenatifa is executive secretary of the NIA.
With respect to the integration of our database with EC, the hope is that it will help eliminate the cost of periodic voter voter register compilation, card issuance, and voter verification, depending on which of these options the EC will independently select to pursue. But it will also result in the issuance of secure ID smart cards with 10-year life cycles if this were ever to be considered. But most importantly, it will eliminate concerns over voter fraud due to the high integrity of our database. There will be no duplication of voter ID and determination of eligibility based on age, based on citizenship, and also based on the person's identity, that you will be who you say you are.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has also been assuring Parliament that the NIA will get the requisite financial support to undertake more registrations and to clear its debt with the banks, which has led to the seizure of some 3.5 million cards.
To ensure that the 3.5 million cards will be released at the appropriate time for the work to be done, we agreed on 100 million CD transfer, and as he rightly said, 80 million has been put into the accounts of CAL, and 20 million, as he also mentioned, will be done by close of business today. So we are very comfortable about the situation to ensure that the needed cards will be given to the NIA to do its work.
MPs on both sides had questions, while some had comments on the presentation.
I want to believe that she traveled to Nigeria on a Ghanaian passport and not a Ghanaian national ID card. We need you to establish, and Mr. Speaker, we are demanding that this is established. We want technical evidence of data sharing infrastructure between the National Electoral Commission, the National Identification Authority. She says that 10 million people use Ghana card. It means that some 3.4 million use other references other than Ghana card, where their votes illegitimate, and they did undermine our democracy. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Can you explain to us why the proposed CI is very important, and how the CI will expose impersonators and fraudsters who don't have any form of identity?
Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
This meeting.
Well, we have a bit of an update on that for you because the NDC do not seem satisfied with the answers provided by the EC boss. Minority Leader Dr. Kaysel Atoforsen has been addressing the press on issues.
Ladies and gentlemen, the National Identification Authority, which is responsible for the issuance of Ghana card, has admitted publicly that there is a backlog of millions of Ghanaians who are yet to be issued with Ghana card. The NIA has admitted that about 3.5 million cards have been locked up in a bonded warehouse due to indebtedness owned by the NIA to its private partner. And the indebtedness is 1.5 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent of $117 million US. Again, speaking on Newsfire on Tuesday, on Saturday, 25th of February 2023, the Executive Director of the NIA, Professor Kenneth Ajeman Atefa, said, and I quote, "Since about August of last year, we have experienced financial constraints in the system, and it created a situation where even though we have 3.5 million stock of cards in a bonded warehouse, we are unable to access the cards because of the financial difficulty," unquote. He proceeded by saying that currently about 2.5 million cards are yet to be printed. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the words of the National Identification Authority and not the minority. It is also a fact that the registration process for the Ghana card has been characterized by several difficulties, including logistical constraints. The National Identification Authority has further admitted that the issuance of Ghana card is continuing process and therefore cannot be completed at any point in time. Therefore, making the Ghana card the sole requirement for voter registration cannot be accepted, as it would deny millions of Ghanaians their right to register and vote. Again, as noted, the national security strategy, one of the main risks, as noted by the national security strategy, that one of the main risks of Ghana's peace and security is mistrust in the electoral processes, the suspicion of collusion by the ruling party and the Electoral Commission to rig the election for the ruling party continues to drive the situation towards dispute and potential violence. The above admonition is coming from the national security in the light of the clear and present danger of the Electoral Commission continues to pose to the peace and stability of Ghana through its actions, such that this proposed CI needs to be stopped.
Well, so that's the minority leader. Let's get a bit more of an update on this. Joining us in studio is Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, is MP for Tamale Central. He's joining us in studio. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on the polls. I'll be asking you about the evidence shortly, where it is and where the minority feels it has sufficient documentation to prove that indeed there are plans in place to allegedly rig the 2024 elections. But yesterday, picking up on the fallout from the question and answer session that the Electoral Commission did with your committee as a whole, there were some developments which involved yourself as well. You got up in Parliament under the direction of the Speaker. He was asking you to retract, quote, some unprintable words that you used on the Electoral Commissioner. What accounted for your decision to use?
The last time I checked, and in fact after the program, after the sitting yesterday, I tried to go on YouTube to access information of other parliaments. Shameful. It is not an unprintable word and it is not unparliamentary.
To use the word shame? I
use the word.
But you don't use the word shame in your practice, right?
No, I use the word shameful because the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Jean Mensah, was absolutely lying through her teeth. And if you come to this house, a house of people representatives, we represent the entirety of the people of this country, to lie. And I said shameful. So when the Speaker, and I didn't even say it into the mic, the parliamentary proceedings and the practices, and perhaps some of the people who were making noise, some of them just came, so they do not understand how Parliament works. Whatever you say with the mic being off or off the mic, it is not recorded as an official statement of the House. And so when the Speaker asked me to retract, he didn't ask me to apologize.
Right.
He didn't.
Yeah, he told you to take back what you had said.
No, in fact, even if you listen to the Speaker's directives, he was not even instructing me to. He gave me the opportunity and I said, look, that statement, I could have said I wasn't referring to Jean Mensah, but I'm not a liar. I don't run away from my words.
So you were not shaming Jean Mensah?
No,
all you were saying
was... That's shameful. I mean, she was lying and I said shameful. So when I said shameful, I mean shameful for lying. And then they were making a whole lot of noise and the Speaker called on me. And I said, look, Mr. Speaker, that statement I made, I didn't make that statement into the mic. So whatever statement you make on the floor, with the mic being on, it will be recorded as an official statement made in Parliament.
The Speaker came back saying that there was a committee sitting.
Yes, I was asking the Speaker the basis on which he wanted me to withdraw. The Speaker didn't say apologize. So, because I never even apologized. I said the basis on which the Speaker wanted me to withdraw. So in my response, I said, look, Mr. Speaker, I am withdrawing this statement just because of the reverence, the respect I have for you, not because of the statement I made. And in any case, I didn't make the statement into the mic. So if I made the statement into the mic and you have a problem with the speaker, we could have argued and debated as to whether that statement was parliamentary or unparliamentary. But because it was not even into the mic, I asked the Speaker what he wanted me to withdraw. And the Speaker's explanation was that we're in the committee of the whole. And therefore, committee of the whole, there are certain things that can be made. So he was asking me. So my withdrawal had nothing to do with whether that statement was parliamentary or unparliamentary. My withdrawal had to do with the respect I had for the Speaker. And perhaps I didn't want it to degenerate. Some of them
and
were
not for Jean Mensah.
No, not for Jean Mensah.
You have no respect for her?
What is disrespectful about someone lying and you tell the person shameful? What is disrespectful?
Some say you were getting personal in that regard.
How personal? I mean, if Jean Mensah had respected Parliament and respected the people of this country, she won't come to Parliament and be lying. She was lying through her teeth. So I said shameful. So when I said shameful, then they were angry, and some of them I realized they were just ignorant as to how parliamentary work is done. Because if they knew, if you observe the leadership, and I started pointing out that I never made the statement in the mic, Honorable Afenyo, Honorable Anodompre, the majority leader, they sat down, they never even ought, because they knew that I was right. They knew that I never made the statement into the mic. And therefore, they could not. So I never apologized. I only withdrew. And I did so because I wanted us to proceed. And if you observe, my colleagues and some of our leadership were saying that, look, let's proceed, just withdraw. So I withdrew.
Do you have regrets for what transpired yesterday?
As to what?
Using the word shameful?
No, absolutely not. If I have the opportunity any day and anybody lies, I'll tell the person it's shameful.
Okay, well, why then are you saying Jean Mensah is telling lies? For instance, she points to your own LI, which you passed, LI 2111, and she says as part of the requirements, the Ghana card, for instance, is supposed to be used for a number of transactions, including identification for the registration of a prospective voter.
First and foremost, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the Electoral Commission coming to Parliament for the purposes of amending an existing CI.
Okay.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And we have never said that the Electoral Commission or the Commissioner doesn't have the right to come seeking Parliament to amend an existing CI. We have had this since 1993, that at any point in time, if an Electoral Commissioner feels that one of the means or processes by which they can use to perfect the system of our electoral processes, they can come with a CI. You remember we were voting with opaque ballot boxes and then to transparent ballot boxes. The pictures were not even, it was just thumb printing, and then we'll move from that to biometric. At any point in time, CEIs, electoral commissioners or electoral commissions demand Parliament to amend CIs. But if any time such demands are made on Parliament, they provide justifiable reasons why they think that the existing CI be amended. In fact, if the Electoral Commissioner or the Electoral Commission thinks that the entire CI should be scrapped so that they come out with a new CI, they can do so. The Electoral Commission is not an authority to itself. The Electoral Commission works for and on behalf of the people of this country. Our taxes ensure the comfort of the Electoral Commissioner and her deputies. And therefore, we should hold them accountable, whatever they do. Remember that once the CI is laid, it takes its natural course. Within the number of days, it becomes a law. Now, the Electoral Commission came before Parliament. They came to do the pre-laying. And they did that through the Subsidiary and Legislative Committee. I'm not a member of that committee, but I was invited to sit in that committee. Now, when they presented this proposed CI, I remember the questions that were put to them was that if you are seeking Parliament's amendment of the existing CI, then tell us the reasons why you think that the existing CI must be amended. Or the lawyers will say the mischief that you want to kill. Now, it was outrageous, the reasons given by the Electoral Commission. And yesterday, they rehashed same reasons. They said, one, they could not vouch for the credibility of the other documents that are used for the purposes of procuring the Ghana card.
Is that news to you?
No, I'm coming.
Right.
Culture says there are three sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth. That the credibility, because one, they said the Ghanaian passport, they could not vouch for the credibility of the Ghanaian passport. They could not vouch for the birth certificate. These are the two documents you can use for the purposes of getting the Ghana card. Three, that the guarantor system, where someone could vouch for you, they think that it is a recipe for having names that are on the voter register that ought not be on the voter register. Now, with all these reasons, we wanted to find out why they are doubting the credibility of the Ghanaian passport and the birth certificate. And her reason was that there are evidences that some foreigners are able to acquire the birth certificate.
She points to 40,000.
No.
She said 40,000 were removed from the electoral roll.
The 40,000 was not foreigners. The 40,000 was through the guarantor system. Now, when they appeared before the committee, they said that they have evidences that some foreigners indeed acquired the Ghana passport or the birth certificate. Now, if you are coming with a CI to be amended, and then you want to provide justification why you are seeking the amendment.
Right.
And part of the justification is that you have evidences that foreigners have been able to acquire the Ghana passport or the birth certificate. One would expect that as at the time you are presenting the CI, the proposed amendment for the laying, you would have provided these evidences. They never came with a single name. So we demanded that for us to agree with you, that indeed there are evidences that foreigners have acquired the Ghanaian passport or the birth certificate. Present us with those evidences.
Okay, so this was before
yesterday.
Right.
Now, for months, they finally came with 8 names. 8 out of 32 million Ghanaians. Let's even say 8 out of even 7.
You mean the Electoral Commission
came with 8 names.
Gave you only 8
names.
And this is unofficial.
Unofficial, yes. They present 8 names initially. That these are the people. And we said, 8 names out of... And remember when they came to meet us, they didn't come with any name. When we demanded that they provide us with evidence, they provided evidence that suggested that only 8 names.
Right.
Now, we asked, out of 32 million Ghanaians, over 32 million Ghanaians, then you can establish that only 8 people that are able to acquire the Ghanaian passport or the birth certificate illegally, foreigners. Now, the argument we made was that there are evidences of foreigners who indeed have been prosecuted by the Ghana police through the NIA of possessing the Ghana card. If the logic is that because you have evidence that foreigners have acquired the Ghanaian passport and the Ghanaian birth certificate, we also have evidences that foreigners have been prosecuted for acquiring the Ghana card. And mind you, the 8 people that they presented, they haven't even provided evidences of they being prosecuted.
Okay, but we've heard from Jean Mensah say one foreign name or a minor on the electoral roll is just too many for us to have on the electoral roll.
Foreign name. How about one foreign name of the acquisition of the Ghana card? I mean, that logic, if this logic is not wobbling, to be very honest, my 3-year-old daughter will not buy this logic. Because if the argument is that we cannot vouch for the usage of the Ghanaian passport and the Ghanaian birth certificate for the purposes of acquiring the national identification card, because there are 8 people that you have identified.
Yeah, but once you have 8, you may have more.
I'm saying
the probability remains that you may have more.
I can tell you the evidences of non-Ghanaians, even reported by your station, where the police arrested them and the NIA is prosecuting them, are more than 8.
So how about the 40,000 she was referring to?
The 40,000, he said that the names that were expunged as a result of the guarantor system. Guarantor system doesn't necessarily mean that those people were foreigners. Right. But the evidence of foreigners who acquired the Ghanaian passport and the birth certificate she presented were just 8. So you can have a Ghanaian who, because the guarantor system says that you cannot do more than 5. So if someone did more than 5, 6, they expunge the name.
Right.
So the guarantor system doesn't mean that they were foreigners. But the evidence they submitted to us that were foreigners who acquired the Ghana passport or the birth certificate were 8. So I'm saying that let's look at her own logic. So that is one. Right. So completely illogical. It simply doesn't make sense. So if that is the reason why they cannot vouch for the validity or the authenticity of the Ghanaian passport and the birth certificate for the purposes of acquiring the Ghana card, then that same argument can be made of the acquisition of the Ghana.
Okay, but
yesterday, let me make this point.
And you make that point for me, but I'm sure you are also mindful of the ruling of the Supreme Court, for instance, on the use of the birth certificate.
We are not talking about the birth certificate here.
Okay, you'll get to that.
We are not even talking about the birth certificate.
Well, okay.
I haven't even mentioned, we are talking about the Ghanaian passport. And in any case, the Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution is very clear. It says, among others, that citizens or Ghanaians must be registered once they are above the age of 18 and with sound mind.
Right.
It says shall. So that is legally, that is compulsory. Okay? Now, the reason why the issue of citizenship matter is that if you are not a citizen of this country, you cannot have a birth certificate that shows that you are a Ghanaian. If you are not a citizen of this country, you cannot be deemed to be possessing a Ghanaian passport. If you are not a citizen of this country, you cannot possess a Ghana card. Mind you, even with the Ghana card, foreigners can acquire the Ghana card. But those foreigners, it would have been indicated that they are not citizens of Ghana. People with dual citizenship can have the Ghana card. Even foreigners. You remember, within the Ghana card. Now, even the numbers they are brandishing. I was on a program with one of the leaders at the National Identification Authority. And I says, tell me the number out of the 17 million. How many of them are non-Ghanaians who have the Ghana card? Because non-Ghanaians can possess the Ghana card. It would have indicated that they are foreigners.
So what's your fear? That these still have not may make it onto the electoral roll?
They still have not been able to provide that evidence. Another point that we need to establish, the idea of being allowed to register to vote, as stated in Article 42, is anchored on citizenship. The Ghana card doesn't establish citizenship. It establishes identification of who is a citizen. There are several ways by which you can establish a citizenship of a person. But the Ghana card does only one. It should identify someone. Now, I was supposed to ask questions. In fact, the three of us who were supposed to ask the last question was myself, Honorable Ahmed, and Honorable Atuforsen. Now, the speaker, when it got to the
last set,
he said he was tired, and therefore we should allow only the speaker.
Also, you still had more questions.
Yes, my questions. I wanted to ask 3 questions. I wanted to find out from Madam Jean Mensah whether she is aware that some foreigners have been prosecuted by the National Identification Authority possessing the Ghana card. There's no way she could have said no, because the answer is yes, some foreigners have possessed the Ghana card. And if she agrees, will she then agree with me, based on her logic, which is illogical anyway, that the basis on which she is saying that the credibility of the Ghanaian passport and the Ghana birth certificate could not be vouched for the purposes of acquiring the Ghana card can be applied to the Ghana card itself, because when there are evidences that foreigners indeed acquired it. The other one is that Madam Jean Mensah, in acquiring her Ghana card, what document did she use to prove her citizenship before she was able to acquire the Ghana card? Because you don't just go walk there and say, I want a Ghana card. Right. You must provide evidence of your citizenship before they give you the Ghana card. I wanted to find out from Madam Jean Mensah, what documents did she use to acquire her Ghana card? It will either have been the passport or the birth certificate or someone guaranteed or vouched for her. So these are 3 reasons. Now, if she was able to provide the answer, and certainly it would have been one of these 3, now wouldn't it have been absolutely immoral that she's seeking to disenfranchise some Ghanaians to use the same process that she used to acquire the Ghana card from also, using any other document to establish the citizenship before?
Well, that brings me to just on that. That brings me to the earlier question I was asking, that many believe you created that grounds for her by passing the LI regarding the creation of the Ghana card. She even mentioned that on the floor of the House yesterday by saying, well, you passed the LI 2111. It gave the leeway that the Ghana card could be used for some of these processes, including the identification for
First and foremost, I was in
voter.
Parliament. But you see, that argument is completely whack. And the reason is simple. Even in passing the LI, they indicated that for you to acquire the Ghana card, the guarantor system could be used to acquire the Ghana card. That is one. Vouching for somebody could be used to acquire the Ghana card. The Ghanaian passport could be used to acquire the Ghana card. The birth certificate could be used to acquire the Ghana card. The only way which is determined by law is that you could not use the voter's ID to acquire the Ghana card. What Jean Mensah and the Electoral Commission is seeking to do is to remove all the other documents which you can use to acquire the Ghana card. Is to remove everything now, so that before you acquire, you are able to register, you should have only the Ghana card. Could you imagine that you have your child, you have the Ghana card, your child who grows up and doesn't have the Ghana card, and such a child is above 18 years, such a person cannot register to vote in this country because not through any fault of his or hers, but through the gross incompetence of Jean Mensah and the other 2 incompetent deputy electoral commissioners, that such a person should be denied her constitutional right as stated in Article 42 of the 1992 Constitution, to participate in determining who rules over such a person. It simply doesn't make sense. Now, if you look at Article 45, right. Article 45 mandates the Electoral Commissioner to do what? To expand the voter register. To expand. But what the Electoral Commissioner and the Commission is seeking to do is to restrict people's right to have their names captured in the voter register. That is simply as that. So we are saying that if our colleagues from the MPP are principled, they will fight against this. And that is why we will do everything humanly possible to prevent what they attempt to do.
Okay, Murtala, you're a member of parliament. Certainly you are concerned about the integrity and credibility of our electoral roll, correct?
Yes.
Now, if that's the case, looking at the security features we have, say, on the Ghana card, as compared to the other forms of identification.
What are the security features?
Well, I'm just asking, based on what Professor Kenatefo has told us, that they have the Irish, they have some advanced technology.
Professor Tefwa,
looking at these features.
I'm saying that you want us to talk about credibility.
Looking at these features.
Kennedy at Japan accused him. Kennedy at Japan accused him on TV that he took bribe to award the contract. Kennedy at Japan. Your station carried it. So who is talking about credibility here?
But I'm
saying that if you want to talk about credibility, yes, but I'm asking then even the one heading that institution, how credible is he? Kennedy at Japan, a leading member of the NPP, in fact, one of the leaders of the NPP and a member of parliament, he didn't see the need to even go to court.
Okay, Ibrahim, but I'm asking about the card, the piece of document that's under contention now.
Are you suggesting that the Ghana card is more credible than
I'm just asking you as a member of parliament. I'm looking at the security features.
No, if you want to talk about security,
don't you feel that that's far advanced than the other forms of identity?
The passport has more security features than the Ghana card. That's a fact. The Ghanaian birth certificate has more security features than the Ghana card.
Really?
Tell me. Can you travel with the Ghana card? Jean Manse just returned from Nigeria. Honorable Haruna Idrisu asked her whether she traveled with the Ghana card, even to identify you as a citizen of Ghana, and for you to possess an identity that can say, oh, this is a Ghanaian. It's not even the Ghana card. It is your passport. It is your passport. Now, the argument is that you can vouch for the credibility of the Ghanaian passport and the Ghanaian birth certificate because there are foreigners who have been able to acquire that. There are ample evidence or evidences, in fact, some of whom have been prosecuted, okay, in court, perhaps convictions even been gotten. Foreigners who are possessing the Ghanaian card. And now, even the Ghana card, there is in the Ghanaian card, a foreigner can possess the Ghanaian card. Is that not the case?
Oh, that's true.
People with dual citizenship can have that. They still haven't told us, out of the so-called 17 million, how many of them are holding dual citizenship? Because if you're holding dual citizenship, you can't be an MP.
Right.
If you're holding dual citizenship, you can't be a minister. Right. And how many foreigners are in possession of the Ghana card? They still cannot provide us with this. Look, my constituency. Now, you have people who applied for the Ghana card. And then they are told that they can only get the Ghana card in September. The NIA boss himself, in fact, one of the leaders of the NIA, your station, I religiously monitor my news through your station, indicated that, look, their program and the NIA is not sacrosanct to or under the beheads of the Electoral Commission. So whatever they do it distinctively of the Electoral Commission. So how can you now use a body and the work of that institution which you do not have control over? The Electoral Commission has no control over the National Identification Authority. Now you are now relying on a data that is provided by an institution that you don't have control over for the purposes of establishing citizenship of a person for which you can use as a basis to register such a person. It simply doesn't make sense. So what we know, what they intend to do, and we know what they are planning to do. What they are planning to do is that, look, if they succeed in having this, even though she stated clearly that the purposes or the purpose for the amendment they are seeking is to use it only for the limited registration. But that woman is not credible. She's been lying. She lied to the people of this country, and I can give you a litany of lies. Look at the issue of even the elections we had. Just 2 days before the election, or a day before the election, she sat in the comfort of her office and issued a statement. I mean, even the voter, the declaration of the results, inconsistencies. Look, yesterday demonstrated the crass incompetence of Jean Mensah and the other two, unfortunately, who happen to be my former lecturer. Absolutely incompetent. But I'll tell you one thing. Okay. There is a popular Dagomba proverb that you cannot sleep with an itching anus and do not expect to wake up with smelling fingers. The problems we have today are not problems that are occasioned by anybody, but they are problems that are occasioned by the crass, unacceptable, unbridled incompetence of Jean Mensah and the other two deputies. Look, this was the statement she officially gave to us. Right. Grammatical errors, and I'll give it to you.
Yeah, but I don't think you want to major in the
Parliament is a seal, is a house.
I get the point.
Let me finish. Parliament is a house of records. I attended a Sato school. My English may not be that good, but I could detect grammatical errors, typographical errors. This way, she cancelled this.
Okay.
She brought it. Hold on. She brought a document to present. And in the process, she was cancelling and rewriting.
But I guess
look,
you would
I'm just showing you evidences.
Let your station
let's look at what carry it. She was cancelling and writing.
You may not want to major. You may not want to major on this. Let's look at the.
You think it is not serious?
Well, that's serious.
The Electoral Commissioner of Ghana.
But what's of utmost concern
as
an MP would be the Ghanaians that may be potentially disenfranchised if we do not do the right thing. Why not turn your heat and your attention onto, say, the NIA? Some say you have a good opportunity there because the Electoral Commission, for instance, through the laws that we have, they are not subject to the control necessarily of Parliament. They are an independent institution.
They are subject, if they were subject to the control of Parliament,
I get your point. Yes, but then for the NIA, in terms of resource-wise, in terms of controlling them, the ease of controlling them, you have an upper hand as a house. So why not turn your attention to the NIA, ensure that the promises that you were given are fulfilled?
With all due respect, right. This is ridiculous. The NIA doesn't organize elections in Ghana. The NIA doesn't organize our elections. And in any case, our argument is that the NIA production of national identification cards should not be the only exclusive document that should be used to acquire or for the purposes of having your name put in the voter register as stated in Article 42. 2, the NIA document should not be the only document that should be used to establish one citizenship. And in any case, the NIA document doesn't establish citizenship. It only identifies a citizen. So I can be a citizen without necessarily having the national identification card. But once I have the national identification card, it means that I'm a citizen. I get what I'm saying. It means that when I say once I have a national identification card, it means I'm a citizen. I don't want to contradict myself. Some are not citizens who have it. It should have indicated non-citizens
on the card, on the face of the card.
So I'm talking about the one that indicates that you are a citizen. Right. Now it means that between the holding of the national identification card and citizenship, this one is a subset. The identification card is the subset.
Yeah, but it's not as though it's irrelevant. It's not as though it's irrelevant. You agree?
We have never said so.
So why?
But we have never said that it's irrelevant. What we are only seeking to do, we are saying that it must not be the sole document.
Do you have doubts about what Professor Ken Atefua, for instance, told you? He was there meeting your committee as a whole. He assured you that the finance minister has indeed released the funding and that they'll be able to meet the target by printing all the cards and clearing the backlog they have.
Something strange happened in Parliament. The finance minister, the first time, when the Jean Mensah was supposed to appear for Parliament, spent hours in Parliament. This is a man who was not willing to even answer questions in Parliament. He comes to Parliament absolutely condescending. He had time. So what this government is doing, they care less about the suffering of the people of this country. They care less about the suffering of pensioners, those who have sacrificed their lives, their effort in building this country, who are now very old. Their monies have been taken away from them unjustifiably by this government. They care less about them. Maternity hospitals, plaster, or what do they call them? Gauze. People don't have them. They care less about those things. But they are able to find money, millions of dollars. This Jean Mensah electoral commissioner was given over $80 million to compile the last voter register. Over $80 million. Now, if you were given the mandate, and with $80 million, which is added up to the over $400 billion, this incompetent government has borrowed, which will be paid by myself and you. Now, if you are given the responsibility to do that, yet there are Ghanaians you think who were able to procure the voter register through illegal means, who should be blamed for that? Is it me or you or the Electoral Commission?
She says blame the system, the guarantor system.
Who is in charge of the system? It's just like I come here, then something, maybe your table is not well cleaned, and they say, oh, blame Mutala because Mutala participated in our program. Another clause that people are losing.
Yeah, no, but you're leaving my question. My question about the assurance from the NIA. The NIA was on the floor of the House.
We cannot
They gave you the assurance
NIA.
that they will meet
No,
the targets.
we cannot trust
Professor
them.
Atefa was before you.
No, we cannot. Professor Atefa, you remember the bus rape girl, the girl issue? This man.
No, but it's not about the individual.
No,
it's about the assurance.
The institution is
from
headed,
the NIA.
The institution is headed by an individual.
Do you have doubts that they will meet the targets? Is it that you have doubts?
No, the NIA itself has provided figures that were contradictory yesterday. You remember when Honorable Ayerga pointed out, and Honorable Ayeni, that even their figures themselves are contradictory. I just raised the point here. I said there are over 17 million people they claimed that is over 15 years to and above. We told them, I remember Honorable Adongo asked, how many of them are the 15, 16, 17 years? 2, how many of them are non-Ghanaians who are given an aspect of the national identification card which is not supposed to be given to non-citizens? Because mind you, the national identification card can be given to people with dual citizenship. Even if you are a non-Ghanaian, you can apply. There is a special, which of this, the 17 million, they have not been able to provide that information. I mean, the inconsistencies in the kinds of information they provide is legendary. But let me raise this point. That is one thing many people, if you look at the proposed amendment, do you know, this electoral commissioner is proposing that it will be the discretion of the electoral officer to determine where voting centers should be? Do you know it's in the amendment?
Really?
Yes.
Which portion?
Sorry, centers for registration. Oh, I think I'm just telling you to do that. But
so you finish us with,
yes,
with
I'm
the portion
saying that there is in it. So what it means is that an electoral officer can decide that, okay, we want to do the registration in my bedroom. Mind you, we have evidences of people taking the electoral registration to be done in certain obscured corners, not approved. We also demanded to know, give us the list of all polling stations across the country. That is not provided. The Electoral Commission is demanding that we legitimize criminality, illegality. That's what they are demanding we do. So that once we give that right, then they can decide wherever they want to have the registration, then they do so. Again, the idea that the guarantor system should be taken out, if this is not ridiculous, then perhaps I don't know what is. The guarantor system. The guarantor system is to establish citizenship. So, for example, you have your brother. If you are a twin, then your twin brother was not in Ghana when they were undertaking the registration exercise. Now, your twin brother has arrived in Ghana. He doesn't have the Ghana card. That is your twin brother. Right. If they want to do DNA, they can establish. The Electoral Commission says, no, you cannot participate in the elections because you do not have the Ghana card. When your twin brother, who left the shores of this country, through the usage of the Ghanaian passport, when he returned, for the immigration to allow him entrance into Ghana and stamp, he should have possessed a passport. And that passport indicates that he's a citizen of Ghana. Jean Mensah says that your twin brother cannot participate in the elections. It simply doesn't make sense.
I get that point. How do you then respond to this fear that you're fighting a losing battle? Yesterday, it came up on the floor of the House. The majority leader pointed out that there is no way, there is no law that you can use to stop government business from proceeding in the House. You heard him clearly on that.
Do you know until...
The belief is that all you're doing will come to naught and that you cannot fight government business on the floor.
There's a popular proverb in the Gwang that they don't carry the cripple to see what is coming. They carry the cripple only to see what is going. Because what is coming, he will see it when it arrives. ROPA was passed. And in fact, President gave his assent to it, but they could not implement it. You see, sometimes, I just want to quote Machiavelli. Machiavelli says that there should be war so that people will appreciate the value of peace. what they are doing, and that's why Honorable Bauer asked the woman, look, when people feel that they are so suppressed, when people are disenfranchised to participate in an electoral process by a government that has lost touch with the people, by a government that the people are angry with, and they think that the only way they can rig the elections of 2024 is to manipulate the system.
Yeah, but you don't have any evidence to back what you're saying right now.
No, we do. We do. Coming events, they say, cast their shadows before them. There are several evidences. Ghanaians were gunned down because someone wanted to be a president. And yet he has never made a single statement of condemnation in the lives of the people who were gunned down.
But my question is about what the majority leader said. The fact that what you're doing is to stifle government business from proceeding on the floor of the House. He says you don't have any constitutional power to stop that.
Well, we will see whether we have the constitutional powers or not. We've just started. But one thing we can tell you, we will do everything humanly possible to ensure that the people of this country are not unjustifiably disenfranchised. And to be very honest with you, and that is why we told Jean Mensah that if there is chaos and anarchy as a result of either her incompetence or because she's an MPP activist,
which she's not.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, but she's not a member of
I
the party.
I said on your program, no, I said on Good Morning Ghana, that Jean Mensah was a family relation to the First Lady. Kweku Baku sat on Good Morning Ghana and said, please.
I mean, on record, she's not a card-bearing member of the NPP.
I said she was a family member of the First Lady. Kweku Baku sat on Good Morning Ghana and said that was not true. And you people, because a section of the Ghanaian media is zombified, people believe and agreed with what he said, only for it to be proven in the court during the petition that she was indeed a family member of the First Lady. She is an activist of NPP. She's not only a member, an activist. Dr. Bosman Asare was my 2-year senior in Legon. I was in the psychology department. He was in the political science department. He was an MPP activist. When I came to the department to do my PhD, he was the head of the department.
Now his profile
and he was the TESCON. He was the TESCON patron.
He's now the deputy
I'm saying that he is
now
an
the
MPP
deputy commissioner for the EC.
I mean, he's an MPP activist. So when you have the Electoral Commission flooded with MPP activists, they think that they can do anything. What we want to assure them, 2020 is not 2024. And if anybody thinks that what they did in 2020 and got away with it, we are assuring them they will meet their meter. We will not allow anybody to be disenfranchised in this country. Look, let's go into the elections freely and fairly. Don't disenfranchise anybody. Whoever wins, we come here and then we follow. But I've heard some of them start to say, oh, Nigeria, they have broken the 8 and therefore break the... Ghana is not Nigeria. And this country is not owned by anybody. This country, our democracy is tried and tested. Clearly, if it is not shameful, we are now using Nigeria democracy, and with all due respect to Nigeria, because ours is longer, ours is tested. Even Nigerians themselves will tell you that the system they have in place is not the best. Ours have been tried and tested. You now have MPs who are now saying that, oh, Nigeria has broken the 8, we also break the 8. They are not interested in breaking the economy. They are interested in breaking the 8. They care less about the suffering of the people of this country. And that is why I think that you, the media, to be very honest, and I'm not saying the entire media, a section of the Ghanaian media is so zombified that when the MPP zags, they zag. Look, whatever MPP does, I don't know whether there are material or monetary inducement, who knows? Whatever MPP does, even in the hearts of their hearts, they know that this thing is wrong. They won't talk about it. The democracy, I don't possess any visa anywhere. Right. And I don't possess any passport anywhere. The only passport I have is Ghana. Those of them who have 10 years British and UK visas in them, they think that they can plunge this nation into chaos and anarchy. We are assuring them when they do so, they will be the first people to be consumed.
We need to go. We're grateful that you've been able to join us, and we're definitely looking out to see what the minority will trigger in Parliament on that. Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed is the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Thank you.
You people,
for joining.
No, do they? Your money, do they pay?
We are taking a short break.
I've seen that you guys are working hard, but do they pay you well?
We'll be right back.
You don't want me to talk about it.
We'll be back shortly. Please stay.
Well.
Well, let's take you now to Nigeria because the ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu has been declared as the winner of the country's presidential election. According to the results from the country's Independent Electoral Commission, the 70-year-old veteran politician got 37% of the total votes cast. His main rival, Atiku Abubakar, pulled some 29%, leaving Peter Obi of the Labour Party securing 25% of the total votes cast. The main opposition parties in Nigeria had earlier dismissed the poll as a sham and demanded a return of that contest. Mr. Tinubu based his campaign on his record of rebuilding the biggest city, Lagos, where he was once governor. He was nevertheless defeated in the city by Mr. Peter Obi, a relatively newcomer who mobilized the support of many young people, especially in the urban area, shaking up the country's two-party system. Tinubu won most other states in his home region of the Southwest, where he is known as a political godfather who helped put others into office. Here's the INEC chairperson declaring the winner of that contest.
That Tinubu Bola Ahmed of the APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Thank you.
Excitement there, but Tinubu himself was full of hope and optimism in his acceptance speech.
To all of you, I say, it's not the night to address the party members and leadership. But you can't do acceptance speech and just leave. To me, I will do more than that. I first start by saying thank you to our national leadership, the national chairman, Senator Abdullahi. Thank you, you from Senate, governorship, and made history of navigating a very large political party to make a president. It's not a small letter in history. It's a big letter of achievement. A great day. Thank you very much. God bless you. To the entire members of the National Working Committee, and particularly the Secretary of the party, Iyola Omisore, who had worked with him, collecting some forms, doing everything administratively to get us to comply with the requirements of National Electoral Commission. We thank you for a good job done, and you've navigated the ship and taught us teamship to get us to this destination. The ship did not sink or waver. We anchor well on the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, so that's the acceptance speech by Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who is now the president-elect of Nigeria. But there's a reaction from the opposition parties. Already the Labour Party, one of the key contenders in this year's election, is beginning to kick back and fight back the results affirmed by the INEC. Let's listen to the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party address the press a while ago.
Free and fair elections. That is the best that we know. Nigerians must, just like we are continuing the struggle, Nigerians must continue the struggle by exercising their rights.
David, yes, good afternoon, sir. Kingsley, Daily Independent. Many Nigerians believe, of course, they have valid reasons to believe so, that the judiciary has been compromised, like other arms of government. How much confidence do you have that if your matter, if your case gets to the Supreme Court, you will get justice in return?
Irrespective of the low level of confidence you have in any system, your responsibility is your responsibility. Nigerians contested the 2023 presidential elections through Peter Obi and my humble self. We are going to keep the struggle alive, irrespective of the very low confidence we have in any system. We had extremely low confidence in the promise of the government that there will be free and fair elections, yet we went ahead. We went ahead into the elections. So it doesn't matter how low the confidence it is in the judiciary, the law is the law. And what's even, look, there's the confidence we have in them, and there is the confidence we have in ourselves and in our case. These are two different things. The confidence we have in ourselves and in our case is that elections, so to say, were not held. Because from the polling units, the Electoral Act 2002 as amended provided the direct transmission of results. It is that direct transmission of results that says elections were held. They were not transmitted. What results are you giving? If there are no results, what election are you talking about? Now, going to the registration areas or ward collection units, no INEC returning officer, he or she, shall make entries without making reference to the existing ongoing concurrent IREV, active IREV, which did not exist. How did they collate? If there was no valid collation, what results are you talking about? If there are no results, what election are you talking about? Illegality has been performed. And as far as we're concerned, here is an incoming government for the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is illegal and unconstitutional. As far as we're concerned, it is now for we're submitting our case to the court of law. It is for them, irrespective of how much confidence the world or Africa or Nigerians have in them, irrespective, it is for them to show again that level of confidence.
Okay, any more? Yes, please. Let somebody else.
Well, so a press briefing there by the Labour Party, which is rejecting the outcome of Nigeria's 2023 presidential race. But some more organizations are beginning to ask for tensions to be doused in Nigeria with fears that there may be a spillover effect into the entire West Africa sub-region. We're being joined via Zoom now by Abiom Obisam. He is a media analyst joining us from Nigeria. Also, Yaro Kasambata is a coordinator of the Center of Peace and Security Research at the University of Presidential Studies here in Accra. Yaro, thank you for your time. We're beginning to see that tension is on the rise in Nigeria. And for you, the security analysts and experts, you are asking for some mediation moves to begin, else there may be a ripple effect in the sub-region. Why?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mediation and the peaceful processes in every electoral dispute is the only means to ensuring that we can keep the process going whilst we keep, arm and limbs intact. The situation where elections result in violent conflict, misunderstandings, only escalates beyond the elections itself, creating new avenues for insecurity, and especially in Nigeria, that can have very, rippling effect, given the already, established security situation of Nigeria. The three dimensions, which have largely been discussed, globally. One is the insecurity from non-state armed actors. Okay, here we are talking about violent extremists, who are very active in their operations in Nigeria. We are also looking at the deteriorating economic conditions in Nigeria, which makes the quality of life poorer, falling into the broad category of human security. And then you are now looking at the broad issue of criminality generally, the growing criminal activities in Nigeria, and the general feeling of insecurity by average Nigerians who live there and experience the insecurities every day. Now, this is a profile of what you're dealing with. To have this in the background and have electoral disputes lingering in the corner can be a lethal combination for Nigeria if all these come together in one melting pot. This is why peaceful mediation should be the only way in resolving this electoral disputes. After all, there are issues that are being disputed along legalities, procedures being breached, laws not being properly enforced, issues of transparency, where now fingers are being pointed at the Supreme Court that we can go there and have issues resolved. If the Supreme Court has the ability to unravel the mystery of the Nigeria's election and putting all the chips where they belong to, we can be able to resolve this without having to lose a limb or that inflammatory security situation everyone is fearing. So yes, peaceful mediation processes should be the only way out for Nigeria in this circumstance.
Let me bring in Abiodun, who's joining us from Nigeria as well. It appears we've lost him there. But I was just going to point to what the president of the country himself has been indicating. For President Muhammadu Buhari, this is a revelation, quote, that democracy is ripening in Nigeria. That's his view of the election. This will not help matters, will it?
Democracy, by its very nature, contains the very seeds of its own destruction. We saw that in the United States election recently. The scenes we saw in the United States elections are typical of African elections. What that confirmed for us is that elections are, by their very nature, emotive, they are highly inflammatory, and can result in violence irrespective of the race and the continent. For a whole country like the United States to have its capital besieged by angry mob because they believe the election was stolen should tell you that there is something intrinsic about election itself. And so, yes, the president at his very position now should be sounding the way he's sounding, that democracy is growing. And that is also important for Nigeria, given their peculiar history. We share some few things in common with Nigeria. Having successive, military interventions, now having to have successive elections since 1999 should be giving the Nigerian president the opportunity to sound the way he's sounding. But should it just be the mere motion of going through, procedural democracy, where the time has come, let us do something called elections. And so we have established the institution, the processes are known, the date is fixed. Let's go through the motion, because democracy requires that we do what is known as elections. So let's do it. Or are we concerned about quality processes? Are we concerned about quality engagement? Are we concerned about how we can improve the entire process? Are we concerned about diminishing all doubts every year, every election year, so that if the doubts of the last 4 years election were that high, have we worked hard to reduce the doubt around this election? That is how we can measure the growth of democracy.
Yeah, but
merely establishing, procedural democracy, where it becomes ceremonial, that the time has come to do an election. Let's do it, and then the outcome, as we are seeing and hearing, are all the time, hotly contested and disputed, should be a cause for worry.
Okay, Kingsley Bassey is also joining us from Nigeria. He's a journalist there. And Kingsley, I was just earlier pointing to that press briefing by the Labour Party. We know that the PDP is also not happy about the outcome of the election. But what's the general feel in Nigeria as we speak?
Yeah, good evening to you. Well, the general feeling depends on what side of the divide you belong to as a Nigerian, and essentially, for many persons, especially the youth population who supported the Labour Party presidential candidate, who, by the way, in this election enjoyed enormous support from a lot of Nigerians. For them, it's been hugely disappointing, the numbers. And speaking with a lot of them, it's not necessarily because the candidate lost, but because of the nature and of that loss, and then the processes which led to that. As a matter of fact, I think they're still there at the moment. I can't confirm immediately, but there were protests at the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, the city where the announcement was made, and the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, the governing party, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was declared president at midnight today. So the feeling, essentially, for some, of course, the supporters of the governing party and its candidates are very excited, but for many others across social media platforms, you could feel the pulse. That so many persons aren't excited about the results.
Right. The election observer missions are asking all aggrieved parties to use peaceful means of addressing this challenge. What's the unique opening or opportunities here within the electoral laws of Nigeria? What could a candidate, for instance, do after the declaration?
Well, essentially to go to court, to gather evidences and go to court. And about an hour ago, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Dati Baba, did hold an international press conference where he said they were definitely going to court. And we hear that the presidential candidate, Peter Obi, would be addressing the press soon. We're looking forward to that. But essentially, it's gathered evidences for aggrieved parties. Just go to court and present your case. Also, with the Electoral Act 2022, is the option for the Electoral Commission to review these grievances, these allegations, and all that the opposition has said they're not comfortable with. Review the results, and even before going to court, they have the chance. That's the Electoral Commission now has the chance to say, okay, it means that at this polling unit, certain voters were disenfranchised, or at this polling unit, the results were manipulated, and so we want to cancel the result, this particular election, and order run. There is that. But essentially for political parties, gather evidences of electoral practices and go to court.
And pockets of protests are beginning to erupt in various parts of the country. How are the security agencies dealing with that?
At the moment, they're very peaceful. Hopefully, it stays that way. Peaceful protest, and it's just what it is. Security agents playing their part, ensuring that it's their job to provide security for these protesters, and so they're playing by the rules at the moment. We're hoping really that again it stays that way, and people just get placards stating several things. That's just the situation at the moment. I did mention a few minutes ago that in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, a famous musician, probably called Charlie Boy, he led the protests today, and he's generally, like many other persons, asking and demanding the Electoral Commission cancel the results and either recount or other fresh elections, really.
Right. And I'm grateful. We'll keep watching the space. Thank you, Kingsley Bassey, for joining us all the way from Nigeria. Let's wrap up, Yaro. So going forward, what we've seen during the pre-election period, a number of elderly statesmen from across the West Africa sub-region, also election observer missions, and some other groups moving to Nigeria. What should they be doing post the election period, in your view?
Well, the peaceful engagement, backdoor diplomacy, which they commenced prior to the elections, is what they should be continuing. It is expected that they would engage broadly all the aggrieved parties in the elections, and especially to appeal to them to get their supporters to toe the line of taking official cues of let's follow due process. We are going to the Supreme Court, or we are taking legal processes to examine where we were shortchanged in this election. Therefore, let's temper the desire for violence, because already, as we've indicated, Nigeria has all the indications of a country that can easily unravel, with all the existing security indicators that we have. Prior to the elections, in fact, weeks to the elections, the government attempted conducting a very sensitive economic operation where new currencies were supposed to be exchanged for the older ones to be withdrawn. Now, this situation has led a lot of people without money to live on. They are stranded, and the extent of desperation, is immeasurable. Right. Now, this environment can be a very, fertile ground to foment trouble. Okay. And in an election that has fallen below the expectations of a section of Nigeria, that may be all it takes, to get the situation to unravel. So the peaceful backdoor diplomacy, the shuttling up and down from all the angles of the people involved in the elections are what it will take to get us through these sensitive period of Nigeria's elections.
We need to go. Thanks, Yaro, for joining us here on The Pulse. Well, it appears that it's not Nigeria that's just facing that economic challenge. Here in Ghana, the price of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, is also going up by some 10% today. That's according to the LPG Marketers Association. Joining us via Zoom now is one of the leading members of the group, the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association, who is joining us via Zoom now. Thank you, Gabriel Kumi, for joining us. So here we know that, of course, you're doing that just days or months after we received another shipment of government's gold for oil deal. We're hoping that once, of course, the crude prices are dropping, you'll be doing your part by also complementing us when it comes to the LPG products. Why is that not having an impact on the market?
Good afternoon, my brother. Yes, indeed, LPG price is going. The figures we are picking from the BDCs this morning indicate that the cost price, that's the cost to the oil marketing companies, has gone up by about 10%. If we are lucky, competition can drive that down to about 6-7%. But this increment is not being done by the LPG marketing companies. It's purely an increase in cost of the product. And when that happens, you have no option than to pass that on to the consumer.
10%. Basically, what's the implication?
What that simply means is that for the past window, we've been buying a kilo of LPG at about 15 Ghana cedis. If this 10% is made to stand, we are likely to buy a kilo of LPG at 16 cedis. What that translates simply is that your 14.5 average household cylinder that used to be sold at around 220 cedis is now shooting up to about 240, 250 cedis. And we believe that is just too much for the ordinary consumer to buy. As an association, we have consistently been calling on government to take measures to ensure that the price of LPG comes down. For the past few months, 2 months or so, diesel and petrol has seen a downward trend in terms of prices, but unfortunately, LPG is doing the opposite. And the projection by the experts suggests that going forward, LPG price will continue to escalate. That is why at this point we are calling on government to take very drastic measures to ensure that the price of LPG comes down. You know, already the consumption of LPG in Ghana has taken a nosedive. It's declining. The figures suggest that in 2022, LPG consumption in Ghana went down by over 12%. And that should be a source of worry to every single Ghanaian and to government in particular. Because, you know, government set an objective to increase consumption of LPG from 25% to 50% by the year 2030. But we believe, as at the time government was setting that objective, LPG penetration was about 25%. But we believe we are even going backwards. So there's no way government can achieve its objective if we continue to allow LPG price to go as it's doing. The downward trend consumption has taken is purely and singularly as a result of the fact that price of the product has gone beyond the reach of the ordinary Ghanaian.
And as part of the solution, you're asking for the removal of some taxes. What stop on the agenda for you? What stop on that list?
We have been calling on removal of the taxes from LPG for the past 5 years. We believe LPG must be made tax-free because if you look at even the West Africa sub-region, countries like Cote d'Ivoire are indeed subsidizing LPG to the tune of about 25%. But in Ghana, we put about 13% taxes on the product. And we believe that should be a good step. That should be the first step government should take to ensure that the price of the product comes down. The second thing we are also looking at carefully is the gold for oil or oil for gold deal that we are currently involved in. That deal is currently considering diesel and petrol, and I think that has contributed a long way to making the price of diesel and petrol comes down in recent times.
Explain that to us, because many will not understand the technicality behind that.
Okay, so I'm also not a technical person. I'm also a business person. But government is trying to use gold to procure some oil from some Arab countries, and I think that has been a talk of town for the past 2 months. I think the second consignment is already in, and that is supposed to bring down prices of petroleum product down. But unfortunately, LPG was not included in that deal. And we believe if that LPG had been included, we wouldn't have seen the escalation of the price of LPG that we are witnessing now.
You have the opportunity, if you're to make an appeal. We understand the Vice President is keen on this. He calls it an innovative plan. If you had the opportunity to meet the Vice President, what will be the appeal from the Marketers Association on the gold for oil deal? You now want it to be the gold for oil LPG deal, correct? What would that?
Yeah,
what would that appeal
LPG
be?
is also an oil product. So the gold for oil is not only for diesel and petrol. LPG is also a byproduct of crude. So we are just asking the government and in particular the Vice President to include LPG in that arrangement so that we can get cheaper LPG in Ghana to buy. You see, it's not for any reason that His Excellency and his cabinet set a target for consumption of LPG. It's for a very, very, very good reason. but you can't eat your cake and have it. You can't set such a laudable objective for consumption of LPG, and at the same time, you sit and watch price of the product goes up uncontrollably. LPG is a product with an elastic demand. The only way you can increase consumption, the only way you can engender growth is to take measures to bring the prices down so you can attract a lot more people into the consumption net. So government's own objective of increasing access and penetration could be achieved. But if we allow prices, look, the figures we are picking from this year is that even this year we are going to get worse in terms of consumption. The January, and we are still compiling figures for February, but they don't look good at all. And once LPG consumption in Ghana is going down, the implications are so many and so dire. What it means is that the very little forest cover that we have is being further depleted. What it also means is that the rivers that we have destroyed with Galamsey is also going to dry up because we are going to cut all these trees around the rivers for firewood and for charcoal. What it means is that we are going to have environmental issues, respiratory issues because of the use of unhealthy source of heat like firewood and charcoal. So it's for a very, very good reason. But government must take the necessary steps to ensure that its own objective that it has set for the LPG sector, it comes to fruition.
Okay, largely the arguments you're making are mostly tilted towards adaptation commitments in terms of climate change. But back to the issue of the code for oil that you're raising, for instance, you have the BDCs describing this as counterproductive, stifling, of course, the market, which is supposed to be deregulated, and also creating some challenges in terms of the forex. How do you feel that, you'd be able to realize the realistic profits that you always get if government makes you as an add-on onto this new gold for oil deal project?
In terms of the challenges that the BCCs are facing, government still has gone ahead to implement this. And let's face it, indeed, it has gone a long way to stabilize prices, at least in the short term. So we are just asking that in the short term, let LPG be also included so that we can also witness that decrease in price of LPG. So we can all together plan for the long term on what really to do to ensure that the price of LPG is kept down.
Okay, I would have to leave it here for now, but I'm hoping that, of course, the authorities will do something about it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Kumi is Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association. Well, in today's Joy Clean Ghana campaign series, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly Environmental and Sanitation Task Force visited households without toilet facilities in the Avenor community here in Accra. It is a requirement by law for every household to own a toilet facility, but households within the Avenor community resort to public toilets, putting pressure on the facility. There's more in this report for you.
A requirement for every household to have a toilet facility. So today we'll be going to the various houses to enforce them. We are here with the AMA Sanitation and Environmental team. They are going to ensure that the households and the landlords provide the tenants with toilet facilities.
The same. Madam, just look in front of the woman. They look in front of you.
We are going to households without toilet facilities, but I think this wasn't part of the agenda. So why are we doing this one?
You know, the work we are doing is for public health. It's public health concern. We are going to enforce houses without toilet facilities. But as we are going, if we see something that can have an effect on public health, you need to talk about it. You understand? This is drain. And we all know about the operation Clean Your Frontage. There are 2 people selling things rightly by the drain. When you look at the next side, the woman has cleared her drain and have cleaned the place very neat. But in front of her, look at how the place is. So we need to ensure that she cleaned the place and she doesn't sell things in front of the dirty drain.
She has been advised to clear the drain almost every day. We've been to about 5 households and we've realized that most of them, they don't have any toilet facility. So what is it?
It is not the problem of the government. It is the problem of the landlords. Every house that you build, there is a building plan for the house. And every building plan, there's a toilet facility in the building plan. But when the building plan is approved and they are putting out the building, they put up the building with the toilet and later on turn the toilet into a room and rent it. That is what is happening.
Right now we are noticing that they have commercialized their washrooms, and I'm sure there are other households like this one. So in this case that we've seen this, what actions are you going to take?
As for the actions, so we've just given them a notice. That is just the beginning. We will start from there. Before we take you to court to take any necessary action, we give you a notice. When we do not just see only one thing. You saw how that place is. It's like with small, they will tell us that this is a family house, so nobody is supposed to sweep there. We will come and sweep. Don't worry.
So any message for people who are also commercializing their washrooms, in fact, for tenants in particular?
We want landlords to know that they have the right to all things, but all things are not good for them. A landlord has no right to commercialize a house, a washroom or a bathroom that is in the house. It is not something, if you have built your own commercial bathroom, we don't have a problem to that. But if it is a bathroom that was constructed for the house and people have come to rent the house and they are using the bathroom and you are commercializing it, and then you don't even have a toilet again in addition to that. So where do you want the people? What are some of the benefits that the people are going to benefit from staying in your house? You don't have a washroom, you don't have a toilet, it's just only the room. Why? And this is 21st century. So we are telling landlords they do this from it. They are exploiting, let me say, vulnerable people who have come to cities to find a living. It is very bad.
And we'll keep following up on that and bring you some updates. But do you think God isn't paying attention to you? Why not pray on the Atia Mountains, where God can be heard most clearly? You may have been praying to God to do something new in your life, but it seems there is a lot of interference between you and God. However, there's a spot here in Ghana where some Christians said that God's hearing is the clearest. On the Ghana Month series, Kojo Youngson leads you on a trip through the, of course, area that we are talking about in the Ashanti region, where you can trust that your prayers will be heard.
Nestled in the Mampong Ranges near Nsuta, the Achia Mountains are a magnet for prayerful Christians and church groups looking for a quiet spot for spiritual reflection and communion with God. The almost 2-hour drive from Kumasi towards Nsuta takes us through a rather scenic route of majestic mountains and beautiful overhanging shrubbery. It bears no resemblance to any other place in Ghana. Really quite breathtaking. We have a 70% Christian population. And this place, Achia Mountains, is fabled for its spiritual significance. It's worth it to do the hike up this beautiful trail to the top of the mountain to see where it appears God's hearing is the clearest. Let's go. How long does it take you to get to the top?
Okay, if I'm going there with nothing there, I can use maybe 10 minutes to go. 10 minutes. But when I'm going there with load, maybe 35 minutes to 45 minutes. Then maybe some heavy load, take me maybe 15 minutes.
So somebody like me, how long will it take me? Since I've never done it before.
How I see it, maybe can use maybe 1 hour.
What?
1 hour.
You hear all sorts of stories about this place. People trying and failing to make it to the summit. But I must say, it doesn't look so hard. If even little Bisa can do it, carrying luggage, then for big men like us, it'll be a walk in the park. Famous last words.
Oh, you have started it, Jamie. If you are going to use Travis, hey, easy. But I think 1 hour.
I don't think it's possible to describe the marrow-deep fatigue I was feeling at this point. It felt as if every cell in my body had been drained of its vitality. I had emptied my tank, my reserves, and was running on fumes. Seriously, I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't feel my arms. I couldn't feel my eyes, my waist, my teeth. I was struggling to find physical proof that I still existed. At a point, I genuinely felt I was about to die. And we weren't even halfway there. Hey! I can tell you, without a doubt, since I was born, this is the most tired my body has ever been. So what's the payoff at the end of that grueling climb to the top of Achia Mountain? What do you get when you get here? Well, for the Christians who make this a pilgrimage, let me tell you, they feel closer to God. Look at this. This is the actual prayer camp. Camp 3, the Methodist prayer. And let me tell you, we have learned since we got here that on 31st of December, this entire expanse was full. And you can believe it because they've got these speakers at all the vantage points so that wherever you're standing to pray, you will be heard. Not just by your fellow man, but by God himself. You can imagine that if you live in a city anywhere, it can get very loud. You can feel like there is a lot of interference between your voice and God's ears. But up here, there's nothing between you and your Maker. And the Christians who come here firmly believe that this is the clearest connection they can have with the God who made them. The view from here, not bad at all. I recommend you take your family one weekend, bring them over, and show them what God made.
And I'm sure that, of course, you might want to try that so God can hear you. Kujoyang's in there. Now, donations both in kind and cash continue to pour in support of the completion of the classroom project. Work at the Jamra site is currently at the roofing stage, while construction is yet to start at the Tolon site. 700 school children are expected to benefit after the completion of the 2 school blocks. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and his spokesperson were the latest support to actually support that project. So who else has donated, and what actually is the amount or the kind items they've been donating? There's more in the following report.
The facility under construction at the Breman Jamra site comprises a 3-classroom block, a library and ICT room, and a head teacher and staff common room. The Tolon structure entails completing a 3-classroom block and the construction of a teacher's office. Among donors who have supported so far include DBS roofing sheets, 20,000 cedis, Israeli embassy, $6,000 US, Gapoa, 20,000 cedis, Chartered Institute of Accountants, 10,000 cedis, Planned City Extension Project, 3,000 cedis, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, 20,000 cedis, Dr. Gideon Boakon, 5,000 cedis. Anonymous A, 5,000 cedis. Anonymous B, 2,000 cedis. Momo donations, 20,000 cedis. Forestry Commission gave wood. Odobin Brakwa District Assembly, 10 trips of sand. Odobin Brakwa MP, 20 bags of cement. Spokesperson for the Vice President, Dr. Gideon Boakon, was on the Asempa FM's Ekosisen show on Tuesday, February 28, to honor his pledge and that of the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia. The classroom project lead at the multimedia group, MFR Tiamwa Eli, received the cash of 20,000 cedis, being the Vice President's donation, and a check for 5,000 Ghana cedis from his spokesperson, Dr. Gideon Boakon. She, together with the host of Ecosystem program, Philip Osei Bonsu, thanked the two for their kind gesture towards the classroom project. They pray that many more people will emulate the gesture in support of developmental projects of such nature anytime the need arises. Dr. Gideon Boakon has been sharing what motivated their donation.
I must say that working with the Vice President very closely, I've come to know him as somebody who respects human life and is very much concerned about the well-being of individuals, especially those who are in a destitute situation. And so anytime he hears that an institution or individual is in trouble, it is his wish that he goes to the aid. And I think this gesture that he's doing is just unto God, but also for the young people who may have the opportunity to sit in this block to go to school. Yeah, I equally, just like the Vice President, have a humble beginning. I've gone through a lot in life. My life has been challenged in diverse ways, and I have benefited from the philanthropy of so many people. And so I graciously say all the time that I am just a walking example of God's favor and the benevolence of people. And for that matter, anytime I get the opportunity to help people, I don't second guess on it. In as much as I have life and breath, I think I can contribute meaningfully to somebody's life, and I try to do so at all material time. That is why when I heard the project, I was touched.
You can also be of support to this classroom project, which is a good cause. So you can just come over to the front desk here at JoyNews and, of course, support that project. But for now, that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com and lots of stories there for you to read.